Hello, my dear friends. How are you all? Doing good? Fantastic. Yes, we are back to our English class. In the last unit of our English class, all enjoyed the beauty of nature. Now, you are conscious of the destruction caused by human beings on nature and also aware of the need to protect our nature for a future well-being. I know my friends in front of me will take care of our Mother Earth. Before we move on to our next unit, there is something for you all to watch. What did you see here? I am very sure you all know these well-known personalities who have become world famous in their chosen fields. Are you not inspired by these people? What lessons do they teach us? Right, they all have stories of failures, but they have all overcome those failures and became successful. You should have the courage to go on, to move on when you don't have the strength. What do the stories of these people tell us? Right, if you have the determination and willpower, you can overcome any dangers or challenges in your life. Here is a picture of a woman. Can you identify her? Right, she is Ira Singhal, the topper in the civil service examinations in the year 2015. She fought against her disabilities in order to reach this prestigious position. Let us look into her words. There are problems in life, except those that we choose to consider as problems. Life gives us challenges. It is up to us to take them as opportunities or problems. Everyone has different issues to handle, but how we handle them will define what impact we leave on the world. Dear children, don't you know that we human beings have matchless power of mind which no other being can claim? So children, what are the abilities that distinguish human beings from other living beings? Right, there are many qualities or abilities. One is that they have an amazing power of the brain. Then the reasoning power of human mind. The ability to communicate with so many languages. So dear children, what are the qualities that are needed for a person to be successful in life? There are many qualities. Right. You need the determination, the willpower, the courage to move on, the perseverance, and so many other qualities that will help human beings to move forward and become successful. So children, the fourth unit of our English reader discusses all such things. The name of the unit is Dawn of Hope. We are discussing here the power of hope. As usual, you have 3 lessons in this unit. The first one is a narrative, The Jungle Air Crash by Julian Kopeck, and the next one is a poem by an Indian poet, Jeev Patel, and the last lesson is a story by O. Henry, The Last Leaf. Children, do you think that human beings can survive in a forest, in a thick, dense forest? Watch this. Who is the character here? Right, it is a very familiar character for you, Mowgli. We have seen and read a lot about his life and experience in a dense forest. Alright children, do you have any experience of spending time in a forest, especially in a thick forest? Bit frightening. Not to worry. Some of you may find it adventurous. So children, in our first lesson, The Jungle Air Crash by a German biologist, Julian Margaret Kopeck, we are going to discuss her experience in a jungle after an air crash. The narrative here is taken from her memoir, When I Fall from the Sky, which is an international bestseller, and a gripping account of an acutely distressing adventure and an inspiring life. You can see her profile here. Be sure to make it an activity in your English notebook.
Julian Diller, born on 10 October 1954. Julian Margaret Kopeck is a German biologist born in Peru. She is best known as a sole survivor among 92 passengers and crew in the 24 December 1971 crash of Lanza Flight 508 in the Peruvian rainforest. Her memoir, When I Fell from the Sky, is an international bestseller and is a gripping account of a harrowing adventure and an inspiring life.
Here are some of the incidents in her life. Shall we get into the narrative? Let us read the first 3 paragraphs.
The Jungle Air Crash. I have always enjoyed flying. My mother and I boarded Lanza Airlines Flight 508 as I had just finished secondary school in Lima, and we wanted to spend Christmas with my father in a jungle hut. Daddy, an ecologist, and mother, an ornithologist, held professorships at San Marcos University in Lima, and we spent a lot of time in the jungle where they carried out research. I was sitting in the 3rd row of seats from the rear next to the window. Mother sat beside me, and a man we didn't know on the aisle. Everything seemed quite normal. The takeoff, the climb over the snow-covered Andes, breakfast, the smiling stewardesses, then the green jungle stretching east to the horizon. People were reading or chatting. Everyone was in a holiday mood. In clear weather, the flight from Lima Tupucalpa is one of the most beautiful in the world. But 30 minutes after takeoff, when we were over the jungle, visibility diminished. And then, all of a sudden, we hit a storm front. And this time, it was completely different from anything I had experienced before. Broad daylight turned to night around us. Lightning was flashing incessantly from all directions. At the same time, an invisible power began to shake our airplane as if it were a plaything. People cried out as objects fell on their heads. Bags, flowers, packages, toys, jackets, and clothing rained down hard on us. Sandwich trays and bags soared through the air. People were frightened. They screamed and started to cry. Outside, a sort of bright yellow flame shooting from the right wing. I was blinded by that blazing light, while at the same time I heard my mother saying quite calmly, "Now it's all over." An instant later, there was a violent shaking, and I found myself outside the plane, flying apart from it, still strapped into my seat. But I was alone, and I was falling.
What does Julian talk about in the first paragraph? Right. She talks about her family and also her interest in flying. One more thing, a very unexpected incident happened later on. What was it? Right. The plane was hit by a storm. Now children, it's time for you all to read these 3 paragraphs. While reading, underline the difficult words and then refer to the glossary. Hope you have finished your reading. Let us assess your reading. Here are some of the words which you may find difficult. Here, Julian talks about her seat. Where did she sit? Right. She sat on the 3rd row of seats from the rear next to the window. See here? Right. Rear means back part of something, especially a vehicle or a building. Okay. She talks about a man on the aisle. What is an aisle? See here. Yes, aisle means a passage between rows of seats in an aircraft. Okay, children. Julian talks about a mountain. What is that? Right. It is Andes. Andes mountain. You can see the image of Andes mountain here. So children, shall we discuss the main points in the first paragraph?
I have always enjoyed flying. My mother and I boarded Lanza Airlines Flight 508 as I had just finished secondary school in Lima, and we wanted to spend Christmas with my father in a jungle hut. Daddy, an ecologist, and mother, an ornithologist, held professorships at San Marcos University in Lima, and we spent a lot of time in the jungle where they carried out research.
Okay. Here Julian talks about a flight which she had boarded with her mother. Can you name the flight? Right. It is Lanza Airlines Flight 508. You can see the picture of the flight here. Why did Julian and her mother leave Lima? Right, they want to spend Christmas with Julian's father who was there in the jungle hut. What were her parents? Right, her father was an ecologist and mother an ornithologist at San Marcos University in Lima. They carried out research in the jungle. So, most of the time, Julian and her parents spend their time in the jungle. Children, do you know who an ecologist is? An ecologist is a person who studies the interrelationship between environment and organisms. പരിസ്ഥിതി വാദി എന്നാണ് ecologistനെ പറയുക. And an ornithologist, right, a person who is an expert on birds. So children, refer to page number 157, activity 8. Complete the activity in your notebook. Children, now let us move on to the second paragraph.
I was sitting in the third row of seats from the rear next to the window. Mother sat beside me and a man we didn't know on the aisle. Everything seemed quite normal. The takeoff, the climb over the snow-covered Andes, breakfast, the smiling stewardesses, then the green jungle stretching east to the horizon. People were reading or chatting. Everyone was in a holiday mood.
To which place were Julian and her mother going? Right, they were going to Pucallpa. Pucallpa is a city in Peru. You can see here. How did she describe the start of her journey? Yes, everything was normal at the start of the flight. The takeoff, the climb over the snow-covered Andes mountains. People had their breakfast and they could also see the greenery of the jungle outside. Okay, how was the mood of the people in the flight? Yes, the people were in a holiday mood. All of them were reading or chatting. But something strange happened after 30 minutes. What was it? Read paragraph 3 and find out. Right? Yes. Visibility diminished. Visibility was less. They couldn't see anything. The plane hit a storm. 30 മിനിറ്റിന് ശേഷം അപ്രതീക്ഷിതമായി പുറത്തുള്ള കാഴ്ചകൾ മങ്ങിത്തുടങ്ങി. ഒരു വലിയ കൊടുങ്കാറ്റ് ആ പ്ലെയിനിനെ ആഞ്ഞടിക്കുകയുണ്ടായി. See the word highlighted here. Which is that word? Right. Incessantly. Do you know the meaning of the word? Now you can see vehicles moving on incessantly for an hour. The vehicles are moving continuously for an hour. So incessantly means continuously. How does Julian describe the flashing of lightning? Right. The lightning was flashing incessantly. It was continuously lightning. See, you can see the passengers inside the flight. They have fastened their seat belts. The seat belts are strapped. Here is another question for you. How does Julian describe when the plane began to shake? Right. People started to cry as objects fell on their heads. Bags, flowers, packages, toys, jackets, and clothing rained down on them. Sandwich trays and bags soared through the air. People were frightened. They screamed and started to cry. What did Julian see outside? A very unusual thing Julian saw outside the plane. Right, she saw a bright flame shooting the right wing. Yes, the plane had caught fire. And then, what were her mother's last words? Right, her mother understood that the plane is about to burst. She said, "Now it's all over." What do you understand about her mother from these words? Right, she's a woman who is very bold and calm in the face of dangers. Now, the plane began to burst. And what happened to Julian? Right, she was thrown outside the plane, flying apart, with her seat still strapped to her. Now children, I am going to give you an activity. Here, I am going to dictate some of the important points. What you have to do? You have to write these points in your notebook very fast. Okay, let's begin. Okay children, start writing. Julian and her mother boarded the Lanza Airlines flight 508. I repeat, Julian and her mother boarded the Lanza Airlines flight 508. Now, the second sentence. They were traveling from Lima to Pucallpa. They were traveling from Lima to Pucallpa. The third one. Julian's mother was an ecologist and father an ornithologist. Julian's mother was an ecologist and her father was an ornithologist. Next sentence. 30 minutes after the takeoff, visibility diminished. I repeat, 30 minutes after the takeoff, visibility diminished. The next one. The plane began to shake by an invisible power. The plane began to shake by an invisible power. The next sentence. People cried out as objects fell on their heads. People cried out as objects fell on their heads. The next one. Everything started falling inside the plane. Everything started falling inside the plane. The next one. The plane started catching fire. The plane started catching fire. The next one. Julian was thrown out of the plane. Julian was thrown out of the plane. The last sentence. She was alone and was falling. She was alone and was falling. I hope all have finished writing. Yes, my dear children, here are the points which I have dictated now. Now, compare these points with what you have written. Identify the mistakes and make the correction. So, dear children, we are going to wind up today's class with an assignment. Here is your assignment. Julian Kopak says that I have always enjoyed flying. Would you like to fly? Give your reasons. Complete the assignment and send it to your teacher. That's for the day. I'm Sandhya from Arikod High Secondary School signing off.